career has been fairly traditional, and I've done things the way most classical singers do it. But about 3 years ago, I came across this idea. When I love to hike and I love to be out in nature. It's really like one of my biggest passions, and I'd much rather be out in nature than like in a city, for example. And I realized that it's kind of interesting, like there's different acoustics in different parts of the world, in different ecosystems. So like mountain ranges, or like next to a lake, or in a cave even, and they all have often very good natural acoustics. So that was actually my first thing with this project. Was I was thinking to show how the human voice, especially a classically trained voice, can carry in different natural environments. I think it's very important for me personally to work a little bit in the environment, climate change, and endangered species movements, and to use my voice for that. I was born in Poland, and my family immigrated to Canada when I was still a child. I've lived many places, and I think that made me a little bit more comfortable with traveling and performing in many different places. I also sing a lot of jazz and some pop, and I like to put that in there as well, because I do think that's interesting to show the versatile instrument, but also to show that like those different styles can carry in those particular environments. Sometimes I choose songs that have the words that are associated with certain parts of the environment, you know, like, so it can have something to do about water or the flowing of water. So maybe I'll do that next to a waterfall or a lake. Or if it's like about a bird singing, then maybe there'll be birds singing around me. A blooming tree, the song will often include a tree or blooming flowers, for example. I really started to visit a lot of these national parks. I was living in California, first San Diego, then Los Angeles, and I really would see these spectacular backdrops, you know, and oftentimes there was rock involved, which will often create a really interesting acoustic. So I just started singing, you know. I would plant my phone down, or if there was a friend with me, they would record me doing it. And it was honestly a little bit for fun. Like, I didn't think it would progress into what I'm doing now, although I am glad that it did progress, because I think it's an interesting project, so that I can raise awareness, of course. So in the last few months to a year, I decided to make actual music videos with it. So right now I'm working with a pianist, Nadia Boucher. She's a Canadian pianist, and she's been pre-recording some of these classical accompaniments for me, so that we're actually creating like full-on music videos. So it's not just a cappella, me singing alone in nature, but I will also have some of these music videos where I have music accompanying. So I have a video where I'm inside a giant sequoia tree, which I thought was really fascinating, to show like how the acoustic works when I was inside of it. And actually in just regular forests with tall trees, often there's like an incredible acoustic, like you wouldn't believe, like the echo in some of these places I've sung.
There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone who'll watch
I don't amplify my voice at all. So one thing I have to be careful of is if I have like one song, but I have like 2 or 3 different angles, I have to try to make sure that the camera is at the right distance, so that one clip isn't like so much louder than the next, if that makes sense. That takes actually a really long time. If it's not just one shot, like for the whole song, which it makes it more interesting if I switch it, you know. So what I would do is I'll do like 4 or 5 or 6 takes. I have like the piano accompaniment in my ear. So I have like a wireless earbud usually that's not visible. Now this is, of course, I'm talking about like when there's music with me, right? Not when it's a cappella, it's very spontaneous. I kind of just do whatever I want, what I feel is good in the moment. But it's much more difficult to do these music videos I'm talking about with the music behind me. So then once I have like the different takes and different portions of the song that I want to use with each different take, then I have to actually match that with the piano sound. And that's also a little bit of a sound engineering challenge, but I've managed to do it so far. Luckily, I had a little training in that when I was doing my undergraduate in music. So that actually very much came in handy for this project. I mean, I do maybe a little bit of like lighting fixes. If the different takes are have different light, then you have to, so it looks nice and finished and polished. So far I have 2 that are ready. They're on my YouTube channel if you guys want to take a look. So those are the ones that I have completed so far, that with the music behind me, because everything else until then was me a cappella, singing in nature. I have to warm up like out in nature. So that's often very difficult. If I've done like a big hike to get there, then that's also very difficult, because I think I'm strengthening my body and then singing. So I'm really like, the body's the instrument. It's good to have a very good core strength when you want to sing opera especially, but any kind of singing. So I think it's actually a good exercise for singers to try that. It's hard. I loved animals growing up, and I loved camping like with my family as a child, and hiking is like one of my favorite activities. So even just taking a walk or going swimming in a natural body of water, I just love it, you know? So I always just appreciated it, and I love being in it. I love photographing it as well. So it's fun to do these videos where I feel like I have creative control to be able to show what I want of the natural environments too. One thing that really made me think of singing in nature and making that a project is that a few years ago when I moved to San Diego, I started singing for the bonobo great apes there, because the head keeper wanted me to do that to see how they react and also to offer them enrichment. Then I kept doing that for a little while, and when I was in Germany a couple years after that, I was actually invited to the Wilhelma Zoo in Stuttgart to sing for them as well. They have a bonobo group there. And if you don't know what bonobos are, by the way, they are a relative of the chimpanzee, so they're very, very close to them. But they're matriarchal, so the females are actually in charge, and they don't kill each other. They're much more peaceful than chimpanzees or gorillas even. So I became very passionate about that. And then every time now that I have a chance to donate to a charity through like a concert I do, then I donate to a bonobo organization. They were really interested. The group in San Diego, they have like their own little cultural language. You know, each group of great apes, they will have like their own communication methods and stuff. And these particular bonobos, like they would clap if they wanted something more. So once I finished the first song, after a little bit of apprehension, because they didn't hear anything like that before, and actually the matriarch, so the queen of the group, she actually came up as close as possible to me where I was standing, and she signaled to them like and made a sound, vocalized to them. It was almost like she was telling them to be quiet. And then the rest of them paid attention, and they were actually just very silently listening to me. And when I finished the first song, they did that clapping thing. I did, I think, like 2 or 3 songs that first time. And then they would invite me every so often to come and sing for them. So yeah, it was very special, you know. I felt very privileged and to be able to do that. I mean, these are such amazing great apes, and I had this connection with them, and it's one of the coolest things that I've done in my life, I would say, is singing for bonobos. I suppose that like anybody that uses, especially very famous people that use their celebrity to draw attention to the environment, like climate change, that's inspiring for me. So like Leonardo DiCaprio, that's very inspiring. You know, I think more famous people that have the celebrity power that he has should do that. But in general, it's actually just nature itself and the animals themselves that inspired me. I found myself like often just wandering in nature, and sometimes you like warm up your voice a little bit, and then you're like, oh, this acoustic is really interesting. And then when you try to sing something and you're recording, and then you notice later when you're looking back at the recording that there's like birds that are seemingly singing with you. In our modern world, we don't necessarily like pay enough attention to that. Everybody's like in their phones all the time and social media. The society is like really, I think it's maybe moving in the wrong direction. So like I'm hoping that, and I know I do use social media, of course, to share my project, but I think maybe if there's like something meaningful that like really touches like our relationship with the planet and the environment, that maybe somehow that can make the world a better place, even if it's in a small way. In Switzerland, for example, right now, there's just like this extremely unusual amount of rain for the last like 3 months. It's just crazy weather, and it's definitely extreme. Maybe not so much like if you're in the mountains, where often mountains have extreme weather, but like in Zurich, the city, it's crazy. And then just last month, I was in Canada still, and like Western Canada is burning. There's just forest fires that like, they're unprecedented. And like, it's just horrible what's happening. The previous year, California was as bad, even though they're also burning this year, and it's too much. Some of the forest fires are natural, but it shouldn't be this much. So I'm seeing, just if we're seeing these incredible changes, some of these ancient trees, for example, that have lived on the earth for like 3,000 to 4,000 years. So like the sequoia trees, and then the ancient bristlecone pine forest, where I also actually sang, I didn't mention that. Those are like the oldest trees, and they're like 4,000 years old. So I do have some videos singing in front of those as well as the sequoias. But while I was there, I remember reading and hearing about it from the park rangers, and that they were very endangered, these trees. So we have these like beings that have been on this earth for 4,000 years living, and they might actually die in the next couple years. So that's really sad, and it's frightening, because if they die, then the whole ecosystem around there is affected by that, right? So what's going to happen with our planet? And I think these are really important things to talk about. I am considering, and I was talking about it with a pianist friend of mine, that I could do a recital where I can sing some of this repertoire that I've been singing in the wild, and have like a backdrop, like a projector, and have some of these nature shots that I've been taking behind me. So that's one idea. I'm hoping maybe to develop something, I haven't thought of it yet, but maybe even something beyond that, to make it even more special, a little bit more connected even to what I've been doing. But we'll see, so it's still a fairly young project, I would say. And so we'll see how it evolves. I'm sure it will. And we'll see how many places I get to. Right now I'm on like a long trip, and I'm hoping to get to a few different wild locations.
Si sente cantare di sore Regina, la figlia del sol. The sun and the flowers, where there used to be rain. My yesterday was moody. Oh, il verrà dans ses bras, il me parle tout bas. Je vois la vie en rose.
I'd love it if anybody watching follows me on TikTok and Instagram. I promise to keep it interesting, draw your attention to important matters of the earth, and also hopefully offer you a little bit of entertainment with the singing. Yeah, so please follow me on social media, and you can follow my project and what I'm doing